Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It's 10:30 Sunday, so you know what time it is, you know what day it is, and you know what show it is. Addicted to Gear. Welcome back, guys. I hope you guys are doing well. We'll stick around today for about an hour or so, and just chit chat and all the good stuff that we need to talk about before the end of the year. I can't believe that 2026 is just around the corner here. Seems like it went by with a blink of an eye. But I hope it was a good year for everybody. We'll talk about what happened, some interesting things that happened this year. We'll do a throwback and retrospective on this year. And I wanted to ask you guys how you're doing. I know there's a few people that have already trickled in today, and I expect people to be kind of partied out at this stage. But I hope you guys are still have a little bit of energy to talk about gear. I was running around today, so I'm kind of a little bit behind schedule, but I have some interesting things to talk about. So welcome everybody, and as I always say, if you're not a subscriber, and I think all of you guys that I see that are here today are the regulars, but if you're not and you trickle in later, please subscribe, all right? It helps the channel, and the thumbs up always help too. So good morning, everyone. Wayne is here. It's me, Don P. Vox is here. Yeah, I noticed that while you guys were waiting, Shane mentioned that he purchased a few things, some pedals, I understand. So Shane, you want to give us the rundown on what you got? Vintage stuff? Am I correct? Did I understand correctly? Presley is here. Morning, Presley. David's music. Paul says, waiting for my made in Germany birthday present. It's stuck in at the Montreal airport since the 23rd. Really? You want me to go pick it up for you, Paul? What did you order from Germany? I'm curious now. Must be something good. German merchandise. All right. Cheers, guys. I'm just going to take a sip of my coffee. I didn't even have time to have my coffee this morning. There's a question here. Tony, is there a difference in tone capacitors of the same value but different types? Orange drops sound a lot darker than ceramics to me. That's a good question, and there's a lot of back and forth on that. I think there's a lot of voodoo when it comes to capacitors because a value is a value. You might, I guess, perceive some kind of a difference, but I don't know if that's more of a placebo effect or not. If the value is the same, then the results should be the same. It's mathematics. But I know that there's a lot of people that say, no, you have to go with orange drop capacitors, you have to go with bumblebee capacitors, or, there's a lot of different types of capacitors. I don't think they make much of a difference, to be honest with you, as long as the value is correct. I'll bet any amount of money with anyone. If we want to do the double blind test and take 3 guitars and put different capacitors in each one, and you tell me which one it is. If you can guess or tell me which one they are, you have like canine hearing, because I wouldn't be able to tell. So that's my take on it. You guys could challenge me if you want. So good morning, David. Good morning. Santa brought me some guitar gear. Okay, David, what did you get? How many of you didn't get guitar gear? I didn't get guitar gear. Well, actually, as a gift. I got guitar gear for myself. As you can see, I'm holding one of them here. This guy. Interesting little piece of gear. This is a guitar made by Donner. You guys probably have seen this one before. This is the Hush travel guitar. and it's an interesting piece of gear, to say the least. I'm enjoying it, and I'll do a review of it eventually, but I just wanted to show it to you guys just today, I'm sure you guys have already seen it. So Shane said he bought 4 vintage pedals from 1983. So don't keep us in suspense. Shane, which 4? 1983. The 80s were good, at least for me. Lanai, good morning. NFM, good morning. Wayne. Yeah, that is a Donner Hush X. So David's got good eyes. He recognized it right off the bat. So David said, though there will be some variation in how they respond to frequencies from type to type, manufacturer to manufacturer, very small variations though. One interesting thing that I wanted to mention, I'm just going to turn down the volume here. One interesting thing that I did want to mention regarding the caps, and I've had this discussion with a lot of friends out there that build stuff and work on their own amplifiers and stuff like that. One thing that you shouldn't do, and I see a lot of people doing this, even when you buy stuff like, let's say you go out and you buy a board to build an amplifier with. Sometimes you can get pre-populated boards. You can get them on eBay and various other places. And a lot of times, if you look at the board, the capacitors on the board are all the same type. So you'll look at a board and you'll see that they're all, let's say, orange drop, for example, capacitors. And I don't know if everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say orange drop capacitors here. A lot of times they're all the same. And that doesn't necessarily give you a good tone, because sometimes having all the same type of capacitor throughout the capacitors throughout all the circuit makes it very harsh, and maybe sometimes a little bit too bitey. So it's good to have the right type of capacitors in the right places, and it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to use the same type. So knowing which ones, let's say you go with, and when I say type, I don't mean value, I mean type. So there's different types. There's like paper and oil, for example, which react differently. The tone, the value will be the same, but the reaction will be different. So having different types of capacitors in the right places do make a difference. It's subtle, but it does make a difference in the final tone. Hope I'm not confusing you guys out there. All right, happy Sunday to you too, Ian. And MFN said I got a new cable, which may be the equivalent of a lump of coal. It could be worse. You could have gotten socks. And Paul says I have a Weibo JMP drive coming. The magic is it keeps a Strat's chime and bell tone intact even at high gain. Very cool, dude. And that's made in Germany, huh? I don't even know that brand. See, I'm learning something new from you guys. Well, if you want me to go pick it up, I'll go pick it up for you, since it's stuck here in Montreal. I think a lot of a lot of things coming from overseas are going to be backed up, especially over the holidays, due to various things, postal strike, holidays, reduced workers, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just taking a quick look at it, just so I can get familiar with it. Ooh, so that's a nice JMP drive. Very nice. It ain't cheap. That's a nice gift, man. According to the website, it's $297, man. Woo. Very nice. They have the double ones as well. Did you get the double or the single? So I'm not familiar with this brand. I'm going to have to look them up. Very nice gift. I'm sure you're going to love it. I'm sure you did all your research on it, Paul. That's right, David. A lot of capacitor types, air gap, electrolytic, ceramic, and they all react differently, right? The tone generally is the same, but I guess I don't know even how to categorize it. Is it the attack maybe, or how would you categorize the differences in the material types? I mean, if they all were exactly the same, everybody would be making them out of the same materials, right? So there's got to be a difference. That is a good question for Chat GPT. Searching for tone. How are you, man? Human Jones, good morning. David got socks. Got socks also. Well, hey man, we all need socks, right? And David says, I must be a total nerd asking questions about capacitors. No, man, this is what we like. This is why we're here. Those are the questions, man. All good. Never be shy to ask questions. Any question is a good question. I encourage them, all right? So if you're new here and you're feeling shy and you don't know if you should be asking the question, ask the question. Danielle says he's feeling a little bit overwhelmed by guitar gear related storage. Thinking stackable cases I can put on a rack may help. I will be in real trouble if a friend returns my stuff at her place. So make sure that relationship lasts, Danielle. But I hear what you're saying. I know storage is always a challenge. For me, what I did is I ended up getting those stackable, those rack shelves at Costco, the ones that are made of stainless steel. I don't know if you know the type, they're on wheels. They're exactly the right size for a guitar case. So I ended up getting 2 of those, and I end up putting two guitars per shelf, and I still don't have enough room. But it helps. It helps. And then the rest are on, racks over here and all over the place. So the answer to the question, Danielle, is to eventually thin the herd. Maybe sell 1 or 2 guitars that you don't play as often or not at all. And then, you don't have a problem anymore. Ian says, I got a 335 picture to hang on the wall. That's a nice picture. I like those kind of paintings, kind of like the stuff that I have underneath, behind me here. They're kind of, they're prints, but they're prints from a painting. And I like this one, and I've had this for years now because they remind me of all the guitars that I have. Because I technically have 1 of each. Acoustic on that side, Telecaster, 335, Les Paul, Strat. The only thing missing is a Gretsch, but I don't have a Gretsch, so it works out. The Human Jones says, I currently have 2 bass guitars sitting on my back bathroom shower. Sitting in your back bathroom shower. Well, that's cool, as long as nobody turns it on accidentally. I'm just going to warm up the water, turn it on, and they don't realize that there's 2 bass guitars sitting there. It's risky, man. At least put them in the closet or something, under the bed, or I don't know, something like that. So what happened to Shane? We still didn't see, I didn't hear about his pedals. I guess Shane took off. I don't know. Or maybe his wife found out and Shane's in trouble. Maybe we should call 911. Just kidding, Shane. So let's talk a little bit about, the past year. First of all, there's good stuff coming up if we're looking forward, right? January, the end of January 22nd to the 25th, I believe, is the next NAMM show in California. So there's always a lot of hoopla around the NAMM show. There's a lot of cool things coming out. And of course, with that, there's a lot of video dumping, I can call that, if I can use that term, on YouTube. All the companies putting out videos of their upcoming gear, which is cool. It's very cool because it's nice to see what's going to be coming out. It's been rather quiet lately. I don't know if you guys noticed. There hasn't been that much announcements. And I always find it weird. So I know that everybody's sort of being hush-hush just before the NAMM show. So is anyone going to be attending the NAMM show this year? Maybe somebody that lives in California or close to California. Anybody going? I'd love to go, and every year I can't go because I'm busy somewhere else. I'm going to be actually the week after, not even the week after, a couple of days after, I'm going to be in Vegas. So I'm going to be busy, and I won't be able to be in two places at once. I wish I was going. Just 1 year I'd like to go. Going to have to plan a trip specifically for that. But maybe it's better that I don't go. It would be like overkill. I'd want to buy everything. So with NAMM coming up, that's always exciting. There has been a lot of interesting things that happened in 2025. And it's funny because, it's already we have a hard time remembering it. Gear comes and goes so fast that there's a big hoopla when something new comes out, and then it's forgotten. Like, a couple of weeks later, it's replaced by something else. So can you guys tell me perhaps what you guys felt was an interesting or cool trend that you remember for any type of gear in 2025? Do you have anything that stands out to you? There's a few things that stand out to me. I'm just curious to see if they're the same. We'll talk about it. So Paul says it came out 8 years ago. I finally treated myself. The guy makes 14 different Marshalls in a box and Dumble, and he's been at it for 15 years. Wow, sounds impressive, dude. I mean, if you can sell those pedals for that kind of money, they must be good, right? Maybe I can go to Anaheim that weekend and enjoy some satellite activities. Yeah, man. I would. Especially if you're nearby. Why wouldn't you? It's like Christmas. So nobody remembers anything interesting that happened in the world of gear in 2025? Do we all have a short memory, or are you guys just hungover or shy this morning? I'm wondering what you guys, if you guys are like what happened in 2025? I remember well, I think it was 2025, early 2025, or I'm hoping it was 2025. The big hoopla around the Bad Monkey pedal. Do you guys remember that? I believe Josh from JHS talked about it and mentioned how the Bad Monkey pedal was awesome. And all of a sudden, everybody that had a Bad Monkey pedal put them on eBay for like $1,000. Do you remember that? That was not that long ago. It was, I believe it was early 2025. So now that, it's funny because I don't know if any of you went out and got one or maybe have one of those pedals. I don't have one. I looked around to see if I can spot one used somewhere. Not that many, but the interesting thing is that there's a new one called the Batter Monkey. Do you guys know about that one? Oh, just dropped my pick. I hate when that happens. Batter Monkey pedal. Do you know about that one? That one is it is made by Digitech as well. And I guess this is relatively new. I don't know when it actually came out. I'll share my screen with you guys so you can see what I'm talking about here. There we go. Batter Monkey. Go ape. So apparently it's like, the original, except better, of course. They even added a little rotating barrel on there, a la Donkey Kong. So you can get, apparently you can get hundreds of different mixture combinations or combine all three in troop mode. I don't know what that means. The thing that I do like, this is a cool thing here. I don't know if you ever seen this one. This is what they actually did. How can I'd like to, where's my face here? How come I can't I'll be able to come out on the screen while I'm talking? There's a way of doing it. I don't know, man. There's a way of doing it. Anywho, what they did was the bottom of the pedal, you can remove the screws on the bottom of the pedal, and one side of the pedal is rubber, but if you flip it over and screw back in, the other side is Velcro. I think that's genius. I think all pedal companies should do that. So if you want to put it on the floor, you can. If you want to put it on your pedal board, it already has Velcro on the back side of the enclosure. So that's interesting. David said he's seen the Batter Monkey, though I'm more interested in the Big Muff 2. I mentioned the Big Muff also last week. I gotta get myself some, I'd like to get myself a Big Muff also. I know there's gonna be jokes, but the Big Muff 2 may be the one. The good thing about those pedals is that they're relatively easy to find. There's no lack of those Big Muff pedals out there. So you can get them for relatively inexpensive, I'm gonna say. All right, so Searching for Tone says the Behringer Klon, Chase Bliss King of Tone, Fender Indonesia, Helix Stadium, JHS, Ross, and the Lengths of Fuzz Liquidation. Yeah, those were all interesting aspects for sure of 2025. There was a couple of other things. So the Nauticlon, when they came out with the Nauticlon thing, I guess that the Nauticlon and the Behringer Klon, it was the year of the Klon, it seemed. Everybody had a Klon of some sort. Also, the fact that Behringer came out with all of those knockoff pedals, the Fuzz pedal, the Klon pedal, and a few others, that created quite a bit of hoopla there for a while. And I'm surprised that Behringer's been quiet. I guess, again, it's the calm before the storm. I think they're going to be coming out with some interesting stuff at the NAMM show this year. So stay tuned for that. I think also the Harley Benton, the 80s style guitars that they came out with the Floyd Rose single pickup, kind of like the Kramer guitars or the Charvel guitars. Those caused quite a stir as well. And I've been trying to get my hands on one for a review, and I was supposed to get one and it never came. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe eventually I might be able to get my hands on one of those. So that was something else notable that I caught on my radar. And obviously things like the G&L, the fact that G&L's no more. I don't really understand what's happening with them yet. I know that it happened around September, if I remember correctly, where they announced the G&L guitar shutdown, that they were going to shut down operations on Fender Avenue. And from what I understand, I haven't heard any updates. It was the entire operation. So tools, machines, inventory, all that kind of stuff was going to be sold to a new owner. And I don't know who that owner is. I don't know if they're going to continue or not. But I remember, that was a sad story for this year. David's music says Marshall and PV made some pedals of some of their amp modelers in stomp boxes. Yeah, they did. Yeah, Marshall did that. I remember. PV also. Yeah, they did. I think they had a version of their PV Bandit. So Paul says the Batter Monkey was released on December 11th, and it does sound very good at $150 US. It does sound good. I'll have to investigate further on that. Oh yeah, and Presley mentioned the Boss 7-in-1 thingy. Yeah, what was it called again? I already forgot the name. That didn't go over well. I guess they expected it to be a great idea, but people didn't bite. So I think that's going to be a flop for Boss. I don't think a lot of people are interested in having the digital effects like that. And the fact that they have to pay for others, right? It came with a bunch and then you could buy more or something like that. Yeah, that is a nice feature. I really like the idea with the Velcro. I hate messing around with Velcro. Martian Murray says, I'm glad Fender brought Sherwood Green back for the American Pro Classic Series. I don't know how many people actually like green as a color. How many people actually own a green guitar? I don't have a green guitar. If ever I get the Harley Benton guitar, that one was supposed to be green. So that would be my first green guitar. But it's a sparkle green. Should be interesting. If I ever see it, that is. Yeah, the Klon story was a big thing this year for sure. Also, one thing that flew under the radar was the company that wanted to revive the Dumble amps. I don't know if you remember that. It briefly flew across my radar, where basically they were making Dumble style amps again, and I got a blip on my radar for about a day, and then I didn't hear anything else about it. So who knows what happens with that. Does AI count as gear? If so, then how about the unfortunate development of AI generated music? Yeah, man. Yes. I think we're going to remember 2025 as the beginning of the end in terms of creativity when it comes to new music. You know, I think not everyone. I think there's still bands out there that want to do it the old-fashioned way. I think there's going to be a two-tiered approach with music moving forward. It's going to be totally fake, AI generated, which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, but there's that. And then I think people are going to swing the other way, like everyone always does. When something goes too much to the right, it swings to the left. And what's going to happen is there's a lot of people that are going to go back old school. Watch. You're going to see, man. It's going to be like the old days, you know, give me the tube amps, give me the real stuff, and get away from me with that digital stuff. It'll happen, I guarantee you. The interesting thing that I saw recently with AI, it's not necessarily making music. It's actually scribing music, like actually writing the music. Transcription is that's the word I was looking for. So now, of course, you know, with AI being able to do everything, it only makes sense that they're going to use AI to transcribe music. So there was a company already out there. See how fast these things come to life? I don't know, is the name of the company Songscription, or I don't know, something like that, that you can actually use the AI engine to transcribe music. So you can convert any audio file into sheet music. So for those of you who actually read sheet music, that's a great thing. You can actually make tab out of it. You can make sheet music out of it. And you can also make MIDI, MIDI files. However, maybe it's too soon. Maybe. Because apparently after trying it, the verdict wasn't that great. Apparently it did some strange things. It would transcribe the majority of it, but it wouldn't be perfect. So if there's a song that has multiple instruments or multiple tracks with multiple instruments on it, it didn't really transcribe it as accurately. And there was a lot of uneven rhythms when it would do the transcription. So it would be frequently incorrect or just do some weird, wild stuff that didn't make any sense. So again, it's early stages. I'm pretty sure they're going to make it better. As always, you know, the first version of anything isn't that great, but then eventually, you know, I can see that as being valuable. You know, if you do want to have a transcription of something, of course, there's the whole legal aspect of it, obviously, because you don't want to have people transcribing music and selling it and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how they handle that part of it, but it's interesting that they've already started experimenting with that kind of stuff. I'm not surprised. So, not a Dumble where they slipped in production release and didn't cover the name. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier on, searching for tone. That was a fiasco, for real. And yeah, Hoffner's gone. That is a recent thing. I mentioned it last week. That's sad. Another company gone. So the Valaton GP5 was announced at NAMM last year. Now they have the GP50. Yeah, I actually got one, David. I got one here someplace. Or is it in the other room? I'm going to be evaluating that one shortly. I put it somewhere. I played around with it a little while. It's actually quite good. I like it. For a very compact pedal, so far so good. And searching for tone also got one. David just got the 50 yesterday. So how do you like it, searching for tone? Let's compare notes briefly here, if you had a chance to try it out. So Paul has a recommendation. He says he recommends the Earthquaker Devices Barrow, a Tone Bender 2 Fuzz, $130. I'm wondering how much of a difference you'd get between that one and the Behringer, the Fuzz Bender. I was this close to pull the trigger on the Fuzz Bender, Paul, back when it came out. And I didn't, for whatever reason. I don't know if I made the right choice, but I think I was waiting for it to come out on the used market and maybe just grab it for cheaper, but I haven't seen that many. Yeah. David says, searching for tone, I have the GP100, which is great, but you can't expand the foot switches. Yeah. So many things that come out at the same time when it comes to pedals and multi-effects units. I think the pedals and multi-effects units are still doing a little bit better in sales as opposed to amps. I think there's probably less amps being sold, probably more activity on the used market than anything else. Ian says, I don't have a green guitar. A lot of people don't. Antique Olive, it's called. Ah, okay, Antique Olive. That gives me a better understanding of what it could look like. And Danielle says there's an olive green Collins with P90s for sale on Reverb that he keeps trying to ignore. Try a little harder, man. You gotta be strong. So David, searching for tone, says to David, one of the gripes with the 50 is they have two tiny buttons you have to press together to turn on instead of a switch. Seems like something that will break in time. Yeah, I know those tiny buttons, those double buttons. Yeah, they seem a little bit delicate. We'll see. We'll see. The other thing that caught my attention, thanks Thanks, JP. JP likes my shirt. Yeah, this is the, this is how we got here, guys. From the monkeys. One thing that caught my attention, guys, for this year, this is a relatively new thing, is the Lava Studio. I don't know if you guys know about this yet. It's a really cool device that I've seen, and I'd love to get my hands on one to see how well it performs. How can I describe it? Basically, it's as if you would imagine Apple coming out with a multi-effects unit. That's what this thing looks like. It's kind of odd because it's got a base that's rather large and thick, but it acts as a cabinet or speaker. And then on the top of it, there's a big iPad looking like screen on it. So you can flip it up and everything is done through a touch interface. And basically you can use this on your desk, or you can, I assume you could probably try gigging with it, but I don't know how well that would work. But it's really interesting because it's all software driven. So for those of you that are looking for something that is unique and a little I guess newer technology, I'll find it for you so I can at least show you what it looks like. This is Lava Music. Yeah, let me show you. Picture's worth 1,000 words, they say. So it looks like this. You see this here? So it's kind of weird. It almost looks like an appliance. So this is the cabinet. You plug in here. You have power and volume there. This is what it looks like. It even comes with a stand. And this flips up. This is the screen. And then when the screen is up, it looks like this. And then you have everything in there in terms of sounds and whatnot. Not cheap. It's 1,190 bucks Canadian. But it looks interesting, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't know how well something like that could work if it has limited functionality, limited practicality. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, I like cool new things. I like to try stuff, as you can see. All the junk around me here. So I'd be willing to give it a shot and see what it sounds like. David says, one cool AI thing I saw was the Positive Grid app. You can tell it who you want to sound like and it will set it up. And how well does that work, David? Excuse me. I'm curious to know how well that works. So Paul says people like live shows and the celebrity aspect of real people that write and play their own tunes. AI will never be a hit at halftime on the Rose Bowl. See, that's the only thing that's going to save us from AI, Paul, is the fact that you can't tour an AI show. Mind you, I got to be careful what I say here because there's always a way. You know, if they make it a visual, let's say they do, how they, like, look at when you have people that attend raves, for example, with a DJ, right? There's no real show. They're there for the music. They're there for the sound. There is a DJ on stage, but it's not like you're standing there watching a performance per se. It's somebody spinning records, right? So if that can fly, how difficult would it be for somebody to put, a bunch of AI songs on a show? Let's say, for example, at the Sphere in Las Vegas. And you have a whole bunch of psychedelic visuals to go along with it. Maybe some laser lighting, some smoke, some, pyrotechnics. I don't know, something. I'm sure people would probably pay to go just out of curiosity. So never say never. But I agree that, being able to tour as a band is very important in the sequence of generating money, making money, right? And if you can't tour, well, that's a big chunk of profits gone. So somebody's going to have to figure it out. Although with AI, there's nobody to pay. You don't have to pay the artists, right? There's only one person generating the AI songs. So there's that. Anyway, to be continued, that's for sure. MFN says, Tony, I took your recommendations on the Moore Looper and it's great price and making me much more conscious of playing in time. Yes, dude. Everybody needs a looper or a metronome or something to be able to play with in time. It makes a big difference. That is a big thing. I think if anybody, my one tip to anybody starting off is to start playing with at least a metronome. Locke says, weird, the opening screen wouldn't play for me. Had to exit out and come back from the main YouTube screen to get the video to play. That's weird. Somebody's trying to block me. I don't know why. Hey, Dr. Kramer, what's going on, dude? Welcome. How many new people do we have here? If you're new, please let us know. If you're not new, don't be shy. And if you want to chat, you have to subscribe. So hit the subscribe button. My brain is still asleep, guys. So Paul recommends the Barrows as it checks the boxes of one's expectation of a larger than life sound, and as glitch-free as a good overdrive. All right, I'll check it out, dude. I always check out your recommendations, Paul. I always appreciate that. The Human Jones is fixing to pick up a Positive Grid Spark Live. I reckon it's the best large battery operated electric guitar amp for busking. I mean, a lot of people do like that one. I don't see why it would be bad. I'm still waiting for somebody to make a small version of a head similar to what Joyo did. Maybe Joyo will come out with some newer models in the new year. But the Zombie up there is really great for, just having a tube amplifier at your disposal that isn't big. So that I don't, days where I don't feel like lugging around heavy stuff, I can just put that in a bag and go. So that's great. I wish more companies would come out with smaller versions. Vox says the top on Tony's guitar looks suspiciously like his shirt. That's just a coincidence, man. That's just a coincidence. Ian says, I have a similar shirt, but my last guy is jumping with his guitar. Okay, so they'll change the last guy. Hey, Zach, what's happening? A Spark with an iPad. That could work. Vox says, is Seth here today? Haven't heard from him in a while. I don't know. I don't think he's here. So Rex says, good morning. Finally pulled a Spark 2 out of its box after sitting around for about a year, and the Not a Dumble to assemble. Spent this last year learning / using a Voice Live 3 Extreme. So you've been, what's stopped you from pulling out the Spark 2 in such, like, why did it take you such a long time? A year. That's a long time, dude. I wouldn't be able to wait a year to pull something out of the box. For me, it's like the day it arrives, I open it up. David says the Spark app gives you a list of patches to choose from. Since a lot of users share patches, you can usually get pretty close. That is one of the aspects of all these new devices that are coming out that's really, really great, is that you don't have to necessarily break your head with how you're going to be creating patches. A lot of people, especially if you're new to the world of multi-effects units, find it difficult to figure out how to build a patch. With the fact that there's a lot of forums and a lot of websites and places that you can get patches for free, you can just download something based on the description, plug it in, and get pretty close, and then tweak from there. You can get some really nice patches, and you can get garbage patches as well, right? So it really depends on where you're, sometimes you get lucky and you hit the mother load, and sometimes it's like, hey, what is that? Paul says the Lava is an albatross that will be out of the business within a year or two. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe. There's a lot of those. There's a lot of companies that come and go, especially if the price is too high, and if the hardware is not reliable in the sense that it falls apart, I don't know. We'll see. The Kemper, look at the Kemper when it first came out, right? Kemper looked weird. Still does. We'll see. We'll see. Paul says AI is a sideshow that will be where a sideshow is an offer. I don't know, man. You can, I see, there's so many things happening these days, and it's amazing to me. I'm not into I've spoken to younger people that are into these bands that are based on games. I don't even know the names. They come out of Japan, I think. There's a specific genre of music that's based on video games. So everything is made up. There's no real artists, but there's people that go to these shows, and they're mega popular. So with the new generation embracing this kind of thing, I see it happening. I don't know. I'm not saying I like it, but I see it happening. Any other questions, guys? I'm doing a lot of the talking here. Jean-Pierre says a metronome is like when Ringo joined the Beatles and made all the difference in the world. It definitely does. It changes a lot. The cool thing about a metronome is that, even just changing the accent, like, when you're doing the time signatures and you're playing around with the signatures, just changing where the one is. And many times on a metronome you have the da 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 da, right? That the higher pitch usually indicates the one. Just changing where the one is will change the feel of your music completely. Just making that one little change. So if ever you feel bored with your music, just play a metronome and play around with the timing, and you can come out with a lot of cool things. Presley says, a metronome is just a gnome that lives in a big city. Presley. We love you, dude. Rex says, trying out the wireless transmitter receiver for guitars with Voice Live 3 running from battery into a Bose S1 Pro Plus with battery with friend on bass and me on guitar vocals with harmonies from VL3 on New Year's. Wow, man, Rex, you're living on the edge. There's a lot of things that could go wrong in that scenario. Wireless transmitters and all this kind of stuff. Keeping my fingers crossed for you, buddy, especially if it's a live performance. I'm sure everything will go well. Just saying. Be careful. Have a backup. Hey, Rico. Rico's here from sunny Arizona again. Hey, Rico. What's happening, brother? David says, I've been cleaning up after Christmas, but I really want to peel the rubber feet off of my new pedals. Do it. Do it. How many of you keep the plastic on all your gear? Pick guards and what? Sometimes they put the plastic over the pickups. I tend to take that stuff off, but look, this still has the plastic right here. I haven't pulled it off yet. I tend to keep the plastic on the pick guards for a while. It'll come off eventually, but I didn't take it off yet. Eventually I'll do that. Yeah, the Kemper looks like a toaster. On December 30th, my blog Stompbox Steels is 10 years old. I have now reviewed 4,000 pedals. Pedals are not going away. I get 3,000 hits every day. That's very cool, Paul. I've been there. I've checked it out. A lot of stuff to review, dude. The question is, do you actually physically review every one? Or do you just base yourself on, information that's floating out there? How many new pedals do you actually post per month, let's say? Vox says, I got a Behringer SF300 fluff everyone raves about. It's pretty useless in my opinion. It gates the sound a lot. So there we have an unhappy Behringer customer. Fuzz, yeah. That's I was wondering why he said fluff. Fuzz, yeah. I used to keep the plastic on my vinyl albums, just cut a slit on the sides. I never did that. I always peeled it off right at the beginning. Searching for Tone says, I just sold a Helix, didn't realize it still had the film. I could have been a scumbag and sold as new since I only used it a tad. I don't think it really makes a difference. I mean, once you've owned it, whether you use it once or not, people don't care. It's still used, right? One of the amplifiers that is still intriguing me, and it's been out for a little while already, is the Synergy amp. I don't know if you guys know which amp I'm talking about. The Synergy amp is the amp where you have an amp head, which basically has a standard clean tone, but then it has a slot in it where you can slip in modules that will sound like whatever amp you like. And they have a lot of modules right now. I don't know how many modules they actually have today. Let me just check that out. When they first came out, they didn't have that many modules, but I believe they have a lot more now. So this is it. I'll show you. So this is the Synergy website, and this is the amp right here. So you can buy this amp, and you can buy it. This is a head and module package for $1,399. And then they have the different types of modules. So they have the Soldano, which is killer. They have the large Synergy head where you can put in 2 modules at once. So it's almost like you have one head unit and you can have whatever, a Soldano and a Marshall or a Vox and something else. They have the Steve Vai signature module as well. So the modules are about $400 US. Bogner, Uberschall, all high gain stuff here. And so you can see they have quite a few now. I don't know how many do they mention. Let's see here. If I go to shop and I go to module, okay, here we go. Let's go to all of the modules. So check this out. They have the Marshall, the JMP, Tone King Imperial, very, very nice amplifier that I spoke about on my channel as well. The 410 Killer, Soldano. They have two different Soldanos. Dr. Z, they have the Synergy Direct preamp module, which is their own. They have the Friedman BE Deluxe, which a lot of people rave about. PV 6505. They have another Synergy module, another the Vice signature. They have a Diesel, Fryet, Bogner. They have so many now. Wow. Crazy how many they have. I didn't realize. They even have the Metropolis Metroplex. Considering Metropolis is closing down, you can get one of these modules for $400 and still have the sound. Morgan, the AC preamp. The Morgan amps are extremely expensive if you want to buy one of those. And all these great stuff, man. So that one still has me intrigued, for somebody that, has a lot of amps here. If ever I wanted to downscale and just get one and be able to have whichever module, I just put that in there, that would save me a lot of room. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll consider selling one of my amps and maybe building up a Synergy fund and eventually getting one of those. They got me intrigued. Any of you out there have one of those? David says, I like the idea of amp modules, but it kind of locks you into a platform. Yeah, there is that, David, but you have the flexibility of different types of things, which to me is, if you can buy a Soldano module for $400 as opposed to, how much is a Soldano these days? Like $6,000 if you want to buy a slow. So 400 as opposed to 6,000. If you still want to go the amp route, because you can still get all of those sounds in a multi-effects unit, right? I can get most of those sounds in my Fractal FM9, but it's not a head. If I only want to go to a rehearsal with a head and a couple of pedals, then that could be the better solution. Although then you still have to go with something a little larger. If they would make the smaller head version with a 2-slot version, I'd go for that. The big one is a little too big. Smaller, maybe stackable, that would be great. If ever they come out with something like that. I'm just wondering how many people will actually go for that kind of technology. I would. I'm that kind of a guy. I just want to be able to try new things all the time. So I also saw recently that what was funny was that I came across this on Facebook, but Brian Greenway from April Wine, the guy that I bought the Marshall behind me from, was actually recently, I guess, interviewed, and he shared his concerns about the upcoming Triumph reunion. Because I don't know if you guys know about this, but Triumph, the Canadian band Triumph, maybe the Americans here might not know them as well, but they used to be a band that were very popular back in the day. They were talking about a reunion tour. And he, coming from a guy that's been around and been touring, I guess, most of his life, he actually wanted to address the potential challenges that a band like Triumph that hasn't been touring at all for a long time may have. So they actually interviewed him, and he was talking about how, readiness of going on tour is very important, because Triumph has been basically not touring for the last 30 years. And he emphasized, the physical preparation involved and commitments to the tour dates. And I guess he knows what he's talking about because he's still touring. Brian Greenway is still touring. As a matter of fact, we were going to have him on our show. And, since he was touring so much, I haven't been able to find a window where he's available. But I'm still going to ping him and see if he can come on the show one day. I haven't forgotten about him. So it's interesting that he was concerned for a fellow Canadian band like that. And their Triumph is preparing. And they're going to be making a significant effort at coming back on tour. And it definitely is a milestone for a Canadian rock band like Triumph. There was rumors at some point that Phil X would be performing with them, but I don't know to what degree. Since Phil is also a Canadian, right? I like Phil X. I don't know if they've announced all of the venues yet, but I think the Canadian leg of the tour will be running through May 8th in Calgary before moving to the US. So starting in May. So we'll have to see how that pans out for them. I'm wishing them the best. Let's see here. Green Strat. Happy holidays, everyone. Just wanted to share that I recently got a 2023 Lincoln Brewster Signature Stratocaster. Still in the honeymoon phase, but it's an awesome guitar. Congratulations, dude. Hey, that's nice. I promised myself I wouldn't buy another guitar for the rest of this year. So that gives me a couple of days. I got to get cracking. This one came under the wire, though. This one. So this is my last guitar from 2025. All right. 2026, we turn the page. Paul says, I listen to every video. I've learned to separate post-production from the sound of the actual pedal. There are some very reliable and honest reviewers who clue one to garbage by what they fail to say. Okay, so you read between the lines, Paul. All right, that's cool. Well, I mean, today with, like we were mentioning earlier, with AI, I guess it's a lot easier to get that information. I wonder how many people are even going to a website anymore to be able to get that information. It's unfortunate, but many people who spend a lot of money developing websites these days, unfortunately, are seeing the clicks go down and down and down and down. That goes for not just, music gear, but any kind of company. Why? Because Google will give you an AI answer so that you don't even have to go to the website. And a lot of people, if I type into AI right now a question, let's say about a fuzz pedal, for example, and let's say I'll go into Google and I'll say, I don't know, maybe ask a question about the Big Muff. Which Big Muff fuzz pedal is the best sounding one? They're going to say the original probably, right? But let's see what AI comes up with. So I just typed that in to Google. Not even going to a website or anything. And it already comes up with something that says the top-rated Big Muff fuzz pedal generally include the Vintage Triangle for its clarity, the Green Russian for heavy doom grunge tones, and the Op Amp for 90s alternative rock grit. Other popular choices include the versatile JHS Muffletta and the Earthquaker Devices Hoof for better mid-range cut. So all that right from AI. So, and there's more, by the way, underneath that, right? There's the top Big Muff contenders. There's boutique and multi-effects, multi-pedal alternatives, which to choose. Best all-rounder is the Green Russian for warm, thick, creamy fuzz. And if you're going for lead, they recommend the Triangle or the Ram's Head for articulation. So there you go. All that just from AI. Unfortunately, it sucks. But that's what it is. That's what we're dealing with today, guys. Soon you'll need a new guitar holder, Tony. I already need one, Jean-Pierre. I already need one. I have guitars that I can't put anywhere. I have guitars in cases and stuff. So, yeah, I need to sell a couple. Actually, I did sell one recently, just before a couple days ago. I sold one. I'm gonna start. I gotta make room, guys. I'm gonna start selling stuff that I don't use all that often because it's just getting crazy. So, yeah. Does anyone have so many amps or cabinets that they wire everything through switches so that they can change on the fly? I thought about doing that, David, but it would be too much of a headache. There would be too much wires and you would need a pretty hefty switcher. If you're going beyond 2 amplifiers, like I have an ABY switch that I can use to switch between 1 amp or another. But if you're going to go through, if you're going to try and wire, you know, like here, I got the Brunetti, that's 1. I have the Friedman, that's 2. I have the Marshall, that's 3. I have the other Marshall, that's 4. I have the Zombie, that's 5. I have the Princeton, that's 6. And I have the, you can't see it here, but I have the Supersonic, that's 7. That's 7 amplifiers. So if I had to switch 7 amplifiers, not only would I need a ton of wire, I would also need a heavy-duty switcher, so it doesn't make sense. So generally, I'll go through one, and just plug into one, unplug, plug into another, and that's it. But it can be done. It's just, unless somebody's come up with something better, maybe a wireless switcher. You know, if you can do a multi-wireless switcher, that could be cool. I wonder how well that would work. I'm sure somebody's probably come up with it. Let's ask. Let's do wireless multi-amp switcher. If it doesn't exist, we'll have to build one together, David. Make a million. There's switchers, but wireless ones, I don't see too many wireless. A lot of people are asking why nobody's done this. I guess it's harder to do because of like interference and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, the wireless part would be the switching, exactly. Just make a wireless multi-amp switcher. So you can put the little modules, you know, in the back somehow and switch that way. It probably wouldn't be that difficult, I'm thinking. That's $1 million idea right there. Let's see. I have a pink Fender Ultra Strat talking about strange colors, but it's rare. I used to be intrigued by the Paisley Telecasters, pink Paisley Telecasters. You remember those? You don't see them as often anymore. I never went for it because of the pink, but I think now you can get different colors. I think they come in reds and blacks and all kinds of other colors as well. So yeah, that's another thing. How many of you out there are into or perhaps interested in getting a headless guitar? This is a headless guitar, as you can see, guys. What I like about this guitar is, check this out. They've changed it a little bit. You can pull this off. You know, it used to be that you had to screw it in. Now they just pop off. And they have this at the bottom so that you can rest it on your lap. But if you take this off, you can just pull it off in 2 seconds. And if you're standing up, it looks like the old Steinbergers, whatever you want to call it. What's interesting about this guitar, guys, And what I was on the fence about is the pickups, because as you can see, these are not standard pickups, right? They're, first of all, I think these are, I think they could be active pickups. I mean, actually, no, they can't be active. There's no battery. Oh, there is a rechargeable battery. Yes, there is a rechargeable battery in here, although it's not on. Because when you, I'm not going to do it now because I'm plugged in, but you can actually play this guitar two ways. You can play it like this as a standard guitar, bypassing the electronics. You can take this off, take the jack out, turn it on. It's going to make noise if I do it. So you can turn this on, and it has a built-in preamp with a whole bunch of effects and a whole bunch of amps. So you can actually play this guitar. You can just plug in your headphones here, and you can play this guitar silently in your room with amp effects and modulation effects and distortion effects and all kinds of stuff. So if you want to use it as a practice guitar or travel guitar, you can use it. If you want to use it to actually play like a regular guitar, you can just plug it in the way I have it now and use it for that too. So it's pretty interesting. You can see neck through body design. And here, it looks like there's a battery compartment, but this is actually not a battery compartment. It's actually, when you put in the strings, see, the strings are bottom loaded strings there. They slide in, and you need to get access. And this is sort of like a little access box, you know? So it's pretty cool. I think you definitely want to have this when you're sitting down because it makes it way, way more comfortable. And it just, look, takes a second to put that in. And you don't necessarily have to have the top part. That if you feel that gets in the way, you can just use it like this. So these picks are driving me crazy. I got these picks, and the stupid the cork gets in the way because I dig deep in. So I'm gonna take that off. These are nice thick picks. They play nicely, but the cork, man, I can't get used to the cork. So I just take the cork off. There, see? There. Anyway, it's fun to play. What's the price in US or American? I guess you want to know what an American money. I don't know what it is in American. Let's see. Ooh, an American money. Let's see. Oh, I hate these pop-ups. Okay. So, American, well, actually the site I'm on is giving me the information in Canadian money. Okay, well, it's 450 bucks Canadian, which means it's probably like 150 bucks American. I don't know. I don't know what the exchange rate is, but it's way cheaper, right? And this is apparently a Boxing Day price, because according to this website, the regular price is $6.59, which is a little expensive. I wouldn't pay $6.59 for it. Yeah, $3.80. That sounds about right. $3.80. Well, it's $3.49 Canadian. US would be cheaper. So I don't know what it is in US dollars. David says, I like those Donner travel guitars because they look like the Steinberger guitars. That's exactly what that's what I mentioned before too. I like the color too. I like the nice color. The only thing is that if you're thinking about swapping pickups, well, you can't really do it because these are a different size, but they sound good. So I don't see why you'd want to swap them. And the hardware is good too. Like the hardware, you know, oftentimes they'll cheap out on hardware. These ones are very good. And the funny thing, I had to laugh a little bit, is that you see there's the nut here, and then there's a 0 fret, right? And basically the locks the strings up here. They actually used a bone nut here, which is great, except with the 0 fret, that kind of negates the bone nut. So you really don't need a bone nut, but it's nice that they put it in there. $375 US for the Pro? That seems weird because the Canadian price is $349. Why would the American one be more expensive? Check this out. Here, I'm just gonna show you. Oop. So on this site, the Donner website, I lost it now. Guitars, Hush. Here we are. Here we go. See here, this one. Where's the price? Oh, the price just changed on me now. What happened? That's weird. Okay, now it's saying $527. It didn't say that a minute ago. That's weird. How come? Wait, can I go back? See here, it says $459. When I click on it, it says $527. What's going on? Something's not right. Anyway, there's a guitar. Comes with a traveling case and all kinds of goodies and stuff. So they even throw in the headphones. So that makes a nice gift for somebody that wants a travel guitar. All right, guys, anything else? Oh, I almost forgot. We have a poll question today. Oh, I almost forgot that. Let's jump into the poll question, shall we, guys? And by the way, if you don't mind, give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it if you haven't already done so. If you did, thank you. That always helps. Let's go to our channel and our community section and look at the poll question. So the poll question was, what defined guitar gear for you in 2025? So that kind of ties into our theme. And I'll start off with the least popular. So the least popular here says the premium acoustics or classic tube amp reissues. Only 11% of you felt that defined gear for you in 2025. So premium acoustic guitars was probably not that popular. I'm surprised about the classic tube amp reissues, because there was a couple of companies that did come up with reissues. 15% of you said boutique pedals and ambient effect madness, so more on the pedal side of things, which is still rather low, I would say. And then 18% of you said killer new electric guitars. Signatures, offset, headless guitars as well. 18% of you were interested or felt that was what you were focused on for 2025. And then 56% of you, the large majority of you, said digital, AI innovations, modelers, software amps, etc. So everyone, I guess a big portion of you are moving digital now, which is not surprising. Unfortunate for amplifier companies. Hope people will be able to survive, but it does seem to be the trend. A lot of people are moving towards multi-effects units and digital modelers just because they're so affordable compared to the price of amps these days. And then somebody said budget guitars that outperform their way more expensive branded equivalents. That's a given. I think all of us are interested in guitars that bat well above, some of the big brothers out there. So if you're looking for a Strat style guitar or perhaps a Super Strat or something like that, you can opt for a boutique guitar that often costs quite a bit of money. $2,000, 2,500 and more. And you can be relatively happy with a less expensive alternative that doesn't cost that much money. And I've experienced it myself, and I've gathered quite a few of those guitars, which I was quite surprised by. So that's always something that I'm on the lookout for. Our very own Paul says, not surprising, this year was all about modelers, primarily because they are simply computers that every year get better, smaller and cheaper. In a few years, most will be a few foot switches and a window with a set list. Choose a song from, except for some EQ to tweak the unit and work in a different room. All else will come to be worked from a phone or laptop. Yeah, I think so, Paul. I mean, especially with AI now, for sure they'll get even better, quicker, and less expensive, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I've embraced that technology a long time ago. I'm not scared of it. I like it, and I have no problem using it if that's where things are going. To me, if the sound is realistic, when the sound feels and sounds like an amplifier, if it comes out of a box or it comes out of that type of a box, I don't really care, as long as it sounds and feels right. If it does, I'm happy with either one of them. As a matter of fact, if it could come out of one of these boxes and give me all of the pedals and everything in one place, it's actually even more practical. So I embrace that technology. I'm not afraid of it or anything like that. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting things. Regular computers with kick-ass audio converters and a huge model library. I think it's the future, man. I honestly do. I think that's where it's going to go. Unless people could try to reinvent tubes. Let's face it, tubes is an archaic technology. We love them. I love them. But, they're not practical. They're fragile. You have to take care of them. They need work, you need to work on them. You need to maintain them. A lot of people don't have the time or the knowledge to be able to do that. So people are moving towards something else, Paul says, no one has one of anything anymore. Everyone with a modeler on average also has one or more amps. Yeah, except I think the newer generation, Paul. I don't know if the newer generation is going to be able to spend $3,000 on an amplifier, one sound, or want to spend $3,000 on one sound, when you can get something like the Fractal for less than that, with hundreds of sounds, if not thousands, depending on the combinations. So if you look at it, depends on where you're coming from. But yeah, I think the older guys like us tend to have both. We're in that transition phase, but a lot of other people, the new guys, will just embrace the technology because they grew up with it. They're not afraid of it. I saw an interesting chart recently that I wanted to share. Well, I wanted to talk about in just which which guitars were being sold the most of still today. And it's interesting because if we look at the main companies, not like the Chinese brands and all the, I guess other falls into that category. It's funny that Fender and Gibson are still far ahead in terms of which are the most popular. In terms of votes, people still tend to go for Fender and Gibson. PRS is third, but far behind. Like I'm going to say 25% will choose Fender, 25% will choose Gibson, maybe 7% will choose PRS, even though they make excellent guitars. Companies like Sir are probably at a 3% margin right now in terms of popularity. So again, very good guitars, very expensive guitars, not selling as much. But all of the guitars that fall into the other category are probably selling more than Fender or Gibson. At about, I'm going to say almost like close to 30%. So There's a lot of others when it comes to guitars, and a lot of them are really good. So, I think if you want to buy a guitar and you want to hold the value, especially if you're going to be thinking about reselling it eventually, Fender and Gibson are still the ones to go. PRS, sure, those are great guitars. Of course, there's other ones, Ibanez, Jackson, Dean. They're lower down on the list because they're a little bit. They don't hold their value as much. They're a little bit more, I guess, more affordable. But Fender and Gibson will still keep their value quite a bit there. So if you want to be a smart shopper and you don't mind getting the big F or the big G, those are still the ones to get. So 93 Green Strat says the age of big amps is over. The future is digital. I don't know if it's completely over. It's definitely dwindling. Is it over? I'm never going to say it's over till the fat lady sings. But it's definitely moving towards digital even more. It is magic. Presley, I agree with you 100%. Tubes to me are always going to be the real sound. I'm not trying to say tubes are not where it is. It's just that I'm trying to say that as time goes on, it's getting harder and harder to make that distinction, especially if you're recording, if there's a lot of post-processing, if there's also a lot of layering of different effects and all that kind of stuff, the original tone of the amp tends to get buried, and it's getting harder and harder to tell the difference. I don't know if any of you have tried to do that, like with friends, just plugging in a real amplifier and recording it, and then plugging in a modeler, recording it, and trying to make them figure out which one is the real one. I'm sure it's not that easy. It's like comparing everything to mom's cooking. That's a good way of putting it, David. That is a good way. It could come close, but it's never the same, right? Which is probably a good thing. Vox says, I need a 300-watt Marshall so I can peel the paint before repainting. And Paul says, I got my info from Reverb. You can still get a good tube practice amp for under $1,000 US and keep it for life. So after 2 to 3 modelers bought and sold, it becomes the best value for money thing. If you're talking about only an amplifier, I would agree. If you're talking about a modeler as well as effects, that is a little different. An amplifier and effects, because as I mentioned, like stuff like the Fractal is great, not just because of the amp models, but also because of all the great effects that you have built in. And the fact that these guys don't let you just hang there with nothing, they're constantly revamping their software, adding new amplifiers, adding new effects, tweaking the effects. There's actually a beta out right now that I need to download for this, which they've improved quite a few other things. That's the beauty of it. So, you're not necessarily stuck with one product in one form like you are with an amplifier. A Marshall is going to be my Marshall. That's it. One sound, you can tweak it, but it's basically, hardwired. Basically, you're getting one thing. With one of these things, they constantly evolve. So there's always that additional pull to go back and play around with them and see what they've offered next, So that's the kind of thing that I think keeps people more interested in these things here, because people have a short attention span these days, and it's great to have an amplifier you love. And if you find the sound that you want and you're sticking to that one sound, it's fantastic. But a lot of people today like to experiment with a whole bunch of sounds. So even well-known traveling artists are switching to digital just because it makes things easier. The Human Jones says, I prefer analog solid state. I'll see myself out. Yeah, you're welcome to stick around. No worries, man. Oh, MFN says also still make voice-only phone calls. I miss placing the hand piece back in the cradle to hang up. There is something satisfying about doing that, isn't there? I still love my old school solid state Fender amps along with my tube Fender Deluxe reverbs. Hey man, I love them too. I love them too. I love all of these things. You need a little bit of everything, right? You need a little digital, you need a little bit of analog, you need a little bit of everything to keep you happy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate all of it. So looking back on 2025, the sad part about 2025 is that we lost quite a few artists. And we can't leave them out. Ozzy Osbourne, of course, back in July passed on. Ace Frehley in October passed on as well. Who else was there? There's a few other people as well. I'm slipping my mind. Rick Derringer also, I believe, and a few others. So that was pretty sad. Sly Stone, yeah, Sly Stone also. So yeah, that was a sad part of 2025. But I'm looking forward to 2026. I think it's going to be a good year. I think it's going to bring a lot of positive changes that we all want and we all are looking forward to. So I want to make sure to wish you guys a very, very happy new year. We're not going to see each other on New Year's or New Year's Eve, but I will be back and we'll be talking to you again the week after. So I want to get all of the information from you in terms of what you remember from New Year's Eve, if you remember anything. But I want to wish all of you guys a fantastic new year coming up. A lot of you have been around for years, watching the reviews, watching the channel, and now watching the live show. So I do appreciate you guys. You've become, my extended family, and I do appreciate you guys tuning in regularly. I always have a great time chatting with you on Sundays, and I want to try and keep it up as long as I can. But I want to wish you a happy new year, a prosperous new year, full of interesting gear, and of course, wonderful amps, analog, digital, everything. The most important thing is that you enjoy playing the music and it makes you happy, guys. So that's what we all want to strive for in the new year. Let music be your guide and have a wonderful, wonderful time with your family and friends. We'll see each other soon in 2026. So guys, peace out, stay safe, and see you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed this week's roundup. Happy New Year, everybody.